Hey, good morning, Mr. Tracy. Welcome to our India home session. I would like to introduce Miss Tracy. Miss Chef Tracy is an Epicurean and former athlete with a passion for healthy, wholesome recipes. She loved as both a culinary and pastry chef, which helped her launch a health food dessert company in 2008. She taught some hands-on cooking and nutrition courses for conferences and major companies, including two large grocery store brands. Chef Tracy has also written books and articles that share her recipes and nutrition knowledge. Right? Thank you so much for
That,
joining us, Tracy.
thank you. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
it's all yours now.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am going to demonstrate today. It's a fusilini with peppers. So we're going to be using a red bell pepper, yellow bell pepper, and an orange bell pepper. So I'm going to change my camera so that you can see an aerial view of what I'm going to do. And I'm going to explain the food as we go. And if it's fine, I'm fine with questions as we go, because sometimes it pops into your head. And I'm fine with that. Just let me know. I'm fine. Okay, I'm going to change my my video. So just bear with me.
You have a different camera to spotlight?
I do.
Okay.
And I'm changing that right now. Just didn't want you to see all that craziness going on, right? So it could get kind of dizzy when you're watching. So here we are with, if everyone can see this, is that we have the orange bell pepper. We have the red bell pepper and the yellow bell pepper. These are beautiful peppers. You want to make sure the skin is nice and firm. And with that, if my camera is going to cooperate there. And with that, when we cut it open, I just want to show you this. When you cut it open, I'm going to demonstrate with the red bell pepper that we have this white. So you have a very rich in vitamin C. Not sure what it's trying to pick up there.
Yeah, now it's clear.
It's clear, not clear. I don't know what it's trying to pick up. So just sometimes you have to just cooperate with technology. I'll do one more here. I'm just going to change it one more time. See, this is a little closer camera while this one is trying to do its job. So here we have the nice oils right in here. What you can do with the red bell pepper, if you want a non-stick surface when cooking, say like sauteing something, instead of using an oil, you can use this bell pepper, slice it, and allow this oil, if you will, from the skin to secrete onto your pan, and there you have a non-stick surface. Just add a couple of tablespoons of water, and that would suffice. If you're doing a higher temperature, if you're hitting it around 425, 475, again, it's going to be a non-stick surface. Try it out and see what you think. This white right here is very important to keep. That is selenium. Selenium and vitamin C work together. And matter of fact, selenium basically helps activate vitamin C in your body so we can utilize it properly. And vitamin C is important to combine with, say, collagen. You hear about these coined terms such as collagen. Well, collagen has to have partners. We all have to have a partner in life, correct? A friend, and its friend is vitamin C, and that is for your skin and connective tissue. So you have, you have a kinetic system, and your muscles connect to tendons and ligaments, and that is what that is. All right. So we want to make sure that we keep the white when we're cooking as much as possible. You can also, when you pull back anytime, I like to use this as an edible bowl. So when I'm serving hummus, it's a beautiful thing. I will cut up that and add that too, because you have to open it up a little bit more, but it becomes an edible bowl, which is a nice backdrop. So those are just a couple of things for the peppers. Now I'm going to place these peppers in my oven at 400 degrees. I'm going to roast them. All right. and excuse me, 475. And it's just, and with this, it's not going to reduce the nutrients. It's actually going to enhance the minerals that are in there. So with dark greens, etc. So we're not using spinach today, but let's just say that you're using, but we are using Italian parsley, which will do the same thing. It has the minerals selenium, magnesium, and what that's going to do is enhance those numbers. So for instance, if it started at 200, then it will increase 3 to 4 times that amount. And then with salmon or fish, it starts at those high amounts and then goes lower as you cook it. So just remember that. And so you have a nice balance. If you have a cooked salmon or fish with dark greens, then you have a beautiful balance for the minerals and you're not losing any. I'm going to place these in my oven. So just got to get those in. I just wanted to show you the how firm they are and what to do before I put them in. And I'm placing them straight onto, I have a gas oven, I'm putting straight onto the rack itself. All right, placing that aside, I will boil the water now for the fusilini pasta. And what that basically is, if you just go to the store, it's corkscrew. That's it. And you can get mung bean, black bean, those types, which are going to be higher in protein and lower in carbohydrate. So those are choices you have. I'm going to boil, start the water and boil. I'm going to begin with explaining what I like to use in many things. Matter of fact, I will tell you a story today that I was woke up. It's summertime, right? And a lot of pollen in the Tennessee area, and my sinuses were going crazy. I lost my voice. I was like, oh no, I have you guys today. So what did I do? I just took a garlic and ate the garlic whole. What does that do? That kills that bacteria. So I had that pollen, the bacteria in the back of my throat by just eating a raw one about this size, about a fourth to a half a teaspoon. I ate it raw, and now I'm able to speak to you. I've got some hot tea as well that is helping me to keep it clear. But just to let you know that garlic is a beautiful, beautiful herb to add. Well, in my opinion, it's like a spice. It adds a beautiful aroma. And what is that smell? That smell is the antibiotic powers, and it is allicin. So it's that smell when you cut it. That's the stuff that kind of rips apart the mycobacteria cell walls, and it interferes with the enzymes, so they starve to death. And so basically that bacteria dies. And that's what's so powerful about this garlic. The Egyptians used it. Pasteur used it. Very amazing individuals have used it, and it's effective throughout the course of history. Just a simple little guy right here. As a matter of fact, in Pompeii, when Pompeii, the volcano destroyed that area, garlic was not growing in that area at the time. And this was the first thing to come back. That's how powerful garlic is. It is a beautiful thing. So with this recipe, we're going to take 2 large garlic cloves. And what I like to do is you get a bulb like this, and it's got sprout, no big deal. I go ahead and pop it all off and get it and put it into a Tupperware similar to this, so I can just pull it out really quickly. And I'm going to take the 2 outer cloves. So that was a bulb that I showed you, or half a bulb. That's a clove. Okay. I'm going to take 2 large. I'm going to check on my red bell pepper. I'm going to kind of turn it a little bit, because it's going to get brown, and it's going to basically bruise but it's going to soften that so I can use it. And it will almost have like the texture of like sun-dried tomatoes that you get maybe in a jar or something. It will have that type of texture. I'm going to grab my cutting board. And with this, when you're cutting the garlic, always anything, matter of fact, just make sure you're working with a very sharp knife. And on top of it, make sure the knife is the width of the vegetable, if you see that, or the herb, okay? So you don't want to take it and make it too small, then it's a little more difficult. I'm just going to pop the husk. You hear that crack? I call it cracking back. And we open it up, makes it very simple, nice and clean. Now, in this recipe, it is called for crushed. However, if your recipe was called for toasted or what have you, what it's asking for is for you not to release the aroma. And so you're controlling the amount of aroma that is in your dish. This is going to be a heavier aroma, so we're going to open it up more. We're going to crush it, just literally smash it. And I'm going to cut it up because we are putting it in a dish. In your dishes, unlike what I did earlier, eating the garlic whole, I want it to have nice harmony and balance within the dish, all right? And I'm just crushing it. This is basically almost putting into a mint. I'm just pressing it and really opening it up. Beautiful. That's exactly what I want. And I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to get my large frying pan out and start heating that up. Here we are. Next, I'm going to go ahead and keep prepping while my roasted red bell peppers, or my red bell peppers are roasting. Here, I'm going to chop up some Italian parsley. How beautiful this parsley is. Wonderful to have. I'm actually writing a book currently on herbs, 365 days, like a daily herb. They add beautiful flavor to the dish. A lot of times they're misunderstood and misrepresented. And with this, we want to make sure we understand the vein and the leaf. What that's telling me is that it's going to cleanse my blood. All right. So dark greens with that vein just is a good eyeball approach to allow you to know that your blood is actually being cleansed and you are being detoxified. These are you hear the words antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. These fall along the anti-inflammatory for you. I'm going to cut this up. Now, just a little trick. Remember, I was cutting up garlic just a minute ago. And the garlic has that starchy, sticky stuff, so do onions. So I spray on my paper towel to get that garlic off my knife so I can continue using it, and I just wipe it right off. And that vinegar basically diffuses and kind of squashes, if you will, that starchiness or stickiness so I can continue working. And it kills bacteria off the knife and off your surfaces. You can wipe your hands with it. And of course, it's harmless. When you cut up your herbs, bring them together into a ball. Makes it a lot easier. Take the knife you're holding, like pinching, right? And your fingers and that knife are communicating so you don't cut your fingers. And you just do it the other direction, pushing it through, and then we're going to set that aside. Chops it up very nicely, very simply. Okay, so now I have my garlic done and I have my Italian parsley. I have my pasta cooking. Now we have a 6 tablespoons of olive oil. Olive oil is I'm going to send over, it's a smoke point information, and it is a chart that is important to know. And I'm going to show you what it's going to look like this. It's in Fahrenheit. And so you understand how high you can go and what a smoke point looks like. It's important to know this because the triglycerides, what it happens is it breaks apart, pulls it apart. And when you get above the smoke point, then you'll have smoke, right? But then what you're trying to do by protecting the cell with those antioxidants, right? It protects your cell from free radicals. What will happen is if you misuse oil, it can damage the cell. So you want to be very careful and understand this information. So today we are, so with the olive oil, when you're doing extra virgin olive oil, it's for the colder foods, cold pastas. You want to add it to that at that temperature, not when you're boiling. So I wouldn't add the oil to the pasta while boiling. I'm just checking on my bell pepper again. Getting that done. I'm going to put it closest to the top to roast it. When I'm doing presentations, I like to control that a little bit, and I'll start at the middle and then move it so it doesn't burn. All right, so let's try this camera again, see if it's going to cooperate with this. Oh, that would be me. Hi. All right. I have my skillet here. I have prepped my ingredients. I'm going to take the olive oil. Notice I didn't say extra virgin olive oil, just olive oil, and place it into the skillet. It's 6 tablespoons. I always have a particular tablespoon that I use so I don't get my dry ingredients wet. Notice how the oil is starting to separate. I'm adding it to a hot skillet. And it's just separating out. It's like a swirling effect. And you just want to be able to smell and pick up that scent when your oil is getting too hot. You can actually smell oil when it gets too hot before the smoke point occurs. This smoke point for olive oil will be 425 degrees Fahrenheit. It also depends on whether it's unrefined or refined. Of course, what that means is basically, is it processed or unprocessed? So refined means to be processed and bottled immediately after it's extracted or pressed, whereas unrefined means for oils to be left in their natural state. Cold pressed would be unrefined, basically having a lower smoke point for this. Now with the red onion, I'm going to use a whole red onion. This onion, beautiful red onion, is going to be where I want to add some sweetness to the dish without adding sugar. Obviously, sugars are not wise to add to your body unnaturally, because it does, what it does do is going to basically swell up, if you will. It can make so sugar, what it does, I like to refer to as like a high glycemic. High glycemic is basically kind of like a Porsche, the size of a Mack, like a gigantic semi truck with like, that speed of a Porsche. So what we want to do is make sure that we're not doing that, because what happens is it opens and closes that your vascular walls and damages it. And that's where the plaque moves in. So you want to be very careful in the amount of sugar and what types of sugar you're using in your life. So for this, and the same with the bell peppers, the red, the yellow, and the orange. Those are sweeter, whereas the green is going to have a more bitter flavor to it. Change my knife. For this, I'm actually going to cut it in a rainbow look, and it's going to have this rainbow effect. Take off the outer part. Nice and shiny. Nice and thin cuts. It'll be about 1/4 of an inch.
Tracy, sorry to interrupt you while you are doing it. Instead of using olive oil, we can use any kind of oil, or would you prefer olive oil on this?
As long as we're keeping it around, because remember that the smoke, the temperature. So with olive oil, with this, I said it was at 425. So for smoke point, so ghee, for example, is a 450 smoke point. Is that the oil you're in reference to, or?
No, just in general.
Oh, no. Okay. So ones that are around about the same amount, that are 450, would be sunflower, refined coconut oil, corn oil, ghee, peanut oil, soybean oil. And those would be around that, and avocado oil, which is a 520 Fahrenheit. So just to give you an idea.
Okay.
So any of those would be fine. Whereas monounsaturated fat would be your olive oil, peanut oil, and canola oil, and avocado oil. All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, I'm only using half of this onion because it's a very large onion, and I'm gonna have those bell peppers in there. This was a little large. So I'm gonna notice I wanna keep it the same consistency and size. All right. So these larger ones I took out. And it says, so I have about 1 cup of onion in there. Onion, like the garlic, it's going to decrease the bad cholesterol, which is your LDL, increase the good cholesterol, your HDL. And what I like, if anyone, for instance, anytime that you might be putting it with a saturated or an animal fat, onion is great to put with it, because what it's going to do is it's going to basically take those saturated fats, and remember I was talking about the cholesterol, HDL, and LDL, it will reverse those. So it will actually increase the good cholesterol and reduce the bad cholesterol that in your body. So I always put an onion with any saturated fat that might be in the dish. Okay. One more rotation on those. I have this going. Could everybody see what I'm doing? Is it very clear? I want to make sure. It looks clear on my end.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, we're just, I'm rotating it into the oil, making sure that all of it is in. And of course, monounsaturated. It's a fat chemical with one unsaturated carbon bond in the molecule, which means double bond. And what it looks like, layman's terms, basically, it's going to be liquid at room temperature and solid when chilled, versus saturated fat is a solid at room temperature. There you go. Makes it a little easier. Okay. Now from here, let me get my recipe back over here. I'm gonna, these are becoming translucent. As they're becoming translucent, what that means is ghost-like. And notice that they had, when you heard that noise, basically it was the oil and the water making all that noise. But what's happening, it's kind of like making it flimsy and noodle-like. That's also a test to of that translucent look. The red onion versus a white or say a sweet Vidalia or a yellow onion will be less potent in the dish. It does have a lot of potency of the onion in the dish, but less than. If you have like, if onions give you kind of make you burp, let's say, what that is basically sulfur, because there's a lot of sulfur in onions. You can reduce that by using a shallot or a leek, and that would be just as fine. And again, that starts from the onion, especially I would use a shallot, which is a beautiful substitute for a red onion. The leek, I like to call it a warm hug. So I put it in more of my winter dishes with winter squash, acorn squash, and so forth. All right, from here, I'm gonna add the garlic. I'm at a medium heat right now. And the pasta is about ready. And I'm gonna remove my bell peppers because I know those are ready too. And just be careful when you take them out of the oven. They are full of water, steam, hot steam water. You know, remember that has that containing. They are bruised. I'm just taking them off here. I'm going to show you. So here, see how they're nice and bruised? That's that roasted look, made them really soft. That's super soft right now, which is perfect. And I'll put this over here. Now, how we want to do this, and add, so a vegetable fruit. So when you put fruit in the freezer, you'll notice what happens is it's going to get sweeter. So be very careful when you put, when you're using it to make a smoothie or something, that you use less fruit, because that fight system, just like what I did here, with extreme temperatures, it's going to excrete more sugar. It is its protectiveness that it utilizes. All right, I'm going to slice this. Here, notice I'm keeping the stem on. Everyone can see that. As I'm just going to pop it out with my knife, just like that. That's how easy that was. I want to keep as much as possible. I'm going to thinly slice this. Notice I'm doing this. I'm thinly slicing it. So, and I'm dragging my knife down. Just have that sliced. It is pretty steamy. Pretty hot. But I've been doing this for a long time, two decades. I don't think or better. So I question the feeling in my fingers at this point. Maybe it's psychological. Just be careful when you're working with it. It is hot. All right. Now that we're in a translucent, we've had it about 2 minutes in, that garlic, I'm going to add the bell pepper. This is one of my favorite dishes for when it's nice and warm outside. And make sure that you turn off your oven after you're finished using it. A lot of times folks forget to do that. Okay, let's to the side. Bell pepper again. So this is the yellow one. That was the orange one. I used that red one as a demonstration, but you're happy to use that as well. But in this recipe, you will not use a green bell pepper because it's immature. And what that means is that it will have a bitter flavor to it. So it's an immature or young pepper. The red bell pepper alone has 170 milligrams of vitamin C in it, 100 times more than an orange. That's all that noise is the water from the bell pepper. And I'm just mixing the oil and the onions and getting everything together just like this. All right, with my pasta. It's soft. I removed it from the heat, put it to the side. I want to explain to you the difference in the salt. So you have very quickly while this is cooking, you have the white salt, and then you have like black salt, pink Himalayan sea salt, right? Okay. Now, the difference in these salts, so you notice I have a lot of this because I use this in my savory dishes, and I use the sea salt, the white. It is 2,380 milligrams of sodium chloride. What that means is that you use it in baking. It doesn't contain the minerals, the rich minerals that the Himalayan sea salt does. So, and it has less sodium chloride. Sodium chloride and your Himalayan sea salt will be 1,680 milligrams. So that's a huge difference. What this is that for you want to lower your lower your blood pressure, etc., you would use the Himalayan sea salt. In baking, the sodium chloride activates the baking powder and baking soda. So you want to make sure that you use the regular, because those minerals can affect what you're baking, not what you're cooking. So in this recipe, when it says for salt and pepper to taste, I always put the salt in my hand so I can see it, because the water, wherever water is, salt goes. And it dissolves very quickly. There's something called a sodium potassium puff. It's my favorite thing. And the beautiful thing is if I add too much sodium in my dish, I can slice up zucchini because it is very rich in potassium and very rich in water, and it will absorb the salt. Because remember I said wherever water is, salt flows. So if you had too much salt that day, your fingers are puffy, drink a lot of water, flush out that sodium. And then of course the other effect is meaning that you need electrolytes, which that's what that is. Electrolyte meaning electricity derived from the minerals. Really important to know that. And as an athlete, it's really important, obviously, to know that information. Like, when do I need a carbohydrate and when do I need electrolytes? Carbohydrate gives you fuel to go at that moment. Fat, so when I run a marathon, I actually do a fat loading is what I call it, because the fat is a slower burning energy and it will give me more sustainable energy during a marathon. Or if my day is going to be very long, I will have in the morning, I'll have rice, avocado, black beans, and some tomatoes for breakfast, just to give you an idea. If I'm going to go for a run, I need quick energy, so I'll eat, say, oatmeal with a little peanut butter in it or something. All right, I'm going to add the very last in, adding that parsley. Turn it around. I'm just going to turn it down. And what I like to do here, I'm going to demonstrate. Typically, you would add the pasta to this, but very quickly, I'm going to demonstrate portion control on pasta. A lot of times, people like to use or consume pasta in the wrong size. And since this is this particular type of pasta, there's a corkscrew. It will roll around, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to take a measuring cup, and it's 1 cup, 2 ounces. This is the portion of pasta. What that gives you is 44 grams of carbohydrates, 200 calories, right? That's about a fourth. And that's what it looks like. When you put it on your plate, look how small it is. Okay, it's just the backdrop. It's to just balance the pH between any acidity that you have in your stomach, the pH balance. That's all what it's to do. It's to give it a different texture in the mouth, a little more palatable. So that's what that demonstration is for. And I like to do more vegetables and obviously less carbohydrate. I'm a vegetable forward person. What that means is that I'll have more vegetables on my plate than anything else. And I'm going to put this over my pasta in such a way that it's more vegetable than the pasta. See how I did that? Okay. So understanding your portion control, understanding the macros, which is your fat, your protein, your carbohydrate. It's important to know those so that you know how to utilize them properly. Whereas vegetables, you're just going to have a lower carbohydrate most of the time, except, potatoes and such, that I consume these vegetables. So for instance, without the pasta, like this is a good lunch. Without the pasta, you could just have these vegetables as a side item with your dinner, because after 4 o'clock typically you don't need all those starchy, because your body is really preparing for bed. And if you eat too much at night, what your body is going to do is it's going to try to break down the foods you consumed, whereas it's not going to go in and repair cells. I call it the aging process. If you eat too much at night, you're going to age. If you get a good sleep with little amount of calories, just enough to sustain, then you will be able to repair properly. And then, of course, breakfast means to break the fast. You hear this ketosis, you hear that. Well, breakfast is breaking that particular fast. So there you go. And then, of course, you can add your Parmesan on top. A cheese is a calcium, and it is a protein. It is optional, and not everyone. And if you want almond cheese, if you are a vegan, then you can do that as well. And there you go. Any questions though, house for me? The pepper, the question, sorry, was $4.75. I just saw that. So I'm gonna put up $4.75. And in this dish right here, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to ask you that do I have to sauce or any or just salt and pepper?
Yes, no, you can use.
See this pasta, onion, garlic.
Correct. So you can do I'm sorry, say that.
Which sauce? Which sauce I can use, or just eat this one healthy? For healthy, I'm asking you. That sauce is good or not?
So salt is good. It's an electrolyte. Just like the amount of pasta, you need to be careful how much salt you use. A good salt alternative is cumin. And so you're getting that.
She's asking if we could use any kind of sauce, like any tomato sauce.
What kind of
sauce? You can.
But which sauce?
You can use a red sauce. However, that's going to make it a little heavier and a little. So what I would do is I would add. You could do two things. You can add a red sauce to this, like marinara sauce. You can, yes, to answer your question. And then you also can use sliced tomatoes, like cherry tomatoes, and you can put cherry tomatoes in this if you really like tomatoes. So either one is fine. Marinara is good too.
That's good. Yeah. But
She's breaking up a little bit, so I'm. I just want to make sure I got answered that question.
Yes, yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. That's fine,
Great.
yes.
Okay, great.
I have question, which sauce is good with pasta?
જ્યોત્સના આંટી એમણે ઓલરેડી આન્સર કર્યો. You can have red sauce તમને જોઈએ તો, નહીં તો better to નાના ચેરી ટમેટોસ હોય ને એ કાપીને નાખીને ખાવાનું. ઓકે,
ના એ ટામેટો નહીં ગમે.
હા તો પછી રેડ સોસ eat as is, or તમારે થોડો મેરિનારા સોસ નાખવો હોય તો નખાય. ઓકે,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
It looks very healthy and tempting, Tracy.
It is. It's a dish that I really enjoy, and you can. This is the base, and like what she was saying, what she was asking, adding the red sauce. I would always taste the dish first before adding or taking away. So, because you don't want too much going on, because then it's going to misrepresent the balance of the dish. So it might be a little too bitter, or it might it might be a little bit too much. So you always want to have a balance. And when you're using that the red sauce, since we added so much garlic, watch that, because that might make it too garlicky. And then there's that balance that you wanted.
Right.
So
And
remember,
this looks, I mean, light too, If you
Yes,
add
it is.
sauce, it becomes a little heavy.
that is correct. Yes, it will make it a little heavier. Any of the cream sauce or red sauce, it makes it heavier because tomatoes contain a lot of water. And when you put a lot of that together, that's what makes it so heavy. There's a weight to it. You can add this to rice if you like instead. You don't have to be pasta. It can be rice
Right.
as well. And then of course your rice is going to, like in the States, they bleach it and then they put the vitamin B or niacin back in. So like in the States have a niacin rich, but then you can use a wild rice or whatever your favorite rice is. I'm just watch how they process it,
Yeah, instead of this one, like whole wheat pasta also goes well with this, right?
It is. And all that, what that differs is whether or not someone can digest that wheat. So what that's going to look like for those who have issues digesting wheat, your stomach can bloat, and you might feel kind of heavy. You might even have like these white splotches, like yeast splotches or something like that on your skin if you have a reaction to either yeast or wheat. Now, that's why I mentioned earlier for like a mung bean pasta, which is basically pea protein, or even a black bean pasta you can use instead. Black bean pasta will have about 15 grams of carbohydrate. It's very high in fiber. So you, of course, with that fiber, you take the fiber and the carbohydrate and you subtract that number to get the net carbs. And then it also has about 20 grams of protein, whereas the pasta only have maybe 1 gram of protein and a lot more carbohydrate, which, remember that carbohydrate, when your body doesn't use it, turns to fat. Okay. So if you're trying to lose weight, you definitely want to watch your portions on the pasta, and especially when we're using the oil. So that's why it's a smaller amount. So if I'm to bunch this together, it would be a cup, as it tries to. So really, it's about portion control. If you're not to add or subtract, and let's say math is not your thing, then use plates for your portion. And you could even take a paper plate, and I use this as a demonstration on your portion control. My camera will probably focus in and out. I take my hand and I put it on my plate. Okay, so here's my plate. Right, here's my hand. I have a fat marker and it demonstrates. All right, so here's my hand. This right here, the palm of my hand, is a carbohydrate. Okay. The very center is oil, which is about, it could be a third of a cup, which is 3 tablespoons. All right. So I have a knuckle right here. This right here is another knuckle. This right here is a half a cup. And this is going to be my fruit. All right. Because that's a half a cup. So about so like a half of a banana will fit there. Half of an apple, a cutie, a little small nectarine or something. And then way up here, using the tips of my fingers like this, is my vegetable and my dark greens like spinach, kale, red bell pepper, etc. Because those are going to have your least amount of carbohydrate or sugars. So this carb would be like your rice, your pasta, a slice of bread. See the difference? See how? And then that way you don't have to concern with trying to measure everything. Then you can learn how to eyeball it as well, and that will help with your nutrients, if that's helpful for anybody. So if we were to put this plate next to this, notice I got the carb. Pasta, it kind of fell out, but the carb is about this size, and notice my vegetables are about the size of my hand, just like that, which is a cup. Okay. Oh, and I want to say this. So let's say you're sluggish. We were talking about vitamin C earlier. Vitamin B and vitamin C are they are water soluble, but they give you energy. So water gives you energy, correct? So instead of reaching for, let's say, black tea or coffee or something, you need a pick me up because you're getting sluggish during the day. What's happening is your vitamin B and C are depleting. How this depletes is you can have stress in your life, stress internally or externally, meaning sickness or anything like that. Externally, meaning you just have stressful environment, could be anything. And so let's say you're a single parent with 4 kids and you have to work. That's pretty stressful. So I would recommend like every 2 to 4 hours to take in foods that are rich in B and C. So remember we talked about the red bell pepper that's rich in C, and then vitamin B, there's about 15 total vitamin B's. They work together like a bee colony. So B12 is not going to just by itself will cut it. It does need its partner. Remember I talked about friends earlier? Every nutrient needs its friend to really create. So let's say you need to produce more calcium in your body and you don't drink milk. Well, you don't need to drink milk. Dark greens, broccoli, create calcium, right? They have a large amount of calcium. So let's say you don't like broccoli and you don't drink milk. How are you going to get your calcium? Okay, So let's say there's something called an amino acid called tryptophan. Tryptophan, you might find, like, hear about it in turkey and nuts and chocolate and things like that. If I take, say, this dish, let's say I squeeze a little orange, just droplets of orange on it, give it a citrus flavor. And then I take, which is vitamin C, which it already has, red bell pepper. And then I take a food that is a tryptophan, let's say pine nuts, walnuts, anything like almond slices. I can add almond slices to this. Those almond slices and this vitamin C right here, your body will actually create calcium from those two items. So that is what's called food pairing, for your body to actually create something that you are lacking. Calcium is important for the heart, the bones, eyes, skin, everything. It's macro. It's a very large one that your body has. You got a lot of bones in your body, last time I checked. So we want to protect them and we want to keep them healthy. And then, of course, you have other items that will help with your bones. Vitamin D3, you hear about that, which is found in plants. This, to me, what I like to call this dish right here, is a de-stress dish. Reducing the stress in my life through nutrients, beta carotene, calcium, your oil, your vitamin B, zinc. Nuts have zinc in it. So when I talked about those almonds, that would be good to have in that as well. Your iron foods. Remember I talked about the black beans and the mung bean pasta? You can substitute, if it's not iron-rich pasta or what have you, iron is important for an anti-stress nutrient, or to help reduce the stress in your body. You have too much stress in your body, it's very difficult for your body to heal. So just point blank, it's difficult for you to heal. So just remember those very important pieces. And of course, vitamin C and your B3, or your niacin is what it's called. So I hope that helps. Any other questions?
If you have any question, please unmute yourself. No, I don't see anyone. Thank you so much, Tracy. Like, it was wonderful. A lot of information. I love the part where you put the plate and, with the hand, like how you showed the carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables to take. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And
yeah, we appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
It was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I look forward to seeing you all again.
Yes, definitely. We would love to have you again with the new dish. Definitely. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Bye.